Nachos Amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends get together to talk about music, talk about an album, share music with each other around a virtual lounge table kind of thing. It's like a little book club for music. We all share an album at a time, take turns, do this fun thing, do this fun cycle. I'm Peter Rave, your man window playing. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew. We've got Brett.
Petey, I saw you getting out a Mazda Miata last night. Y'all know that ain't true.
We've got Drew.
Ahoy, hoy.
And we've got David.
Madame et Monsieur, merci and bonsoir.
We're here to talk about some music, talk about an album, and the provider of the album is Brett. Brett, what have you brought for us this week?
I have brung the Chromeo, the head over heels Chromeo.
Mm-hmm. This is a brand new Chromeo. It's notable for being a new Chromeo album, and for having
Good take.
It's the one with legs,
and
the one,
and the one with the legs, except that it's the dude's legs now, which hey, can't knock those gams.
It's
they got some quality games.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. We know a bit about Chromeo around here. We are familiar. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I was expecting a lot of 80s inspired music, with a lot of good musicianship and tight, catchy melodies. I was expecting to have on my Android Auto possibly a picture of legs. Without seeing this album cover, I was expecting more legs. I think I got legs.
We got legs. We know
they've got legs, and boy, they know how to use them.
Exactly.
Okay.
I have so many questions.
They grab their leg, they stick a hose in it, and run it through a talk box.
Yeah.
And
David, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I had absolutely no expectations whatsoever. I'd never heard of Chromeo before in my life. I'd never listened to them. I'd never heard of them. They might as well have never existed before.
You never did Record Breakers, the home game on white women?
Yes.
The previous album, White Women?
So then you will not know the context of the fact that every Chromeo album cover prominently features shapely legs, either in the form of underneath under the keyboards.
Stand. Yeah.
Why in the actual hell is that?
It's
Don't
an aesthetic.
Hey,
sure.
ask them.
You'd have to ask. You'd have to consult with Dave One and P Thug of themselves on that.
Fair enough.
They went on tour one time, side note, with their keyboards actually on stands that were shapely legs. So they carry their aesthetic.
Are these guys just really big fans of A Christmas Story or what?
No, I think they're into women. Called a hunch.
Yes,
I think that may be a lyrical theme.
Yes.
Weird.
But yeah, let's talk about the theme. Let's talk about the themes and elements. Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, I'm gonna say this isn't a very deep album. I don't think anybody's life is gonna be changed by the words in these songs. It's self-deprecating, playful songs about romance. Every song has a strong hook and a solid beat. It's pretty much 80s pop, synth pop, funk, disco, all sort of wrapped up. You still get the Chromeo thing, which is like the talk box through a keyboard, and the beats and the super slick bass lines, the fun production. Especially seeing that they should have a budget by now. They have been pretty successful. The lyrics never get gross, and I think that's something that they're very mindful of. They're very body positive perverts, as seen in other albums. But everything they do, like a lot of their lyrics get down to the insecurities of them, the failures in romance, or just general, like, I don't know, the lyrics aren't really the thing that brings me. The clever turn of phrase is something that they always get me with. Another Chromeo thing is like, okay, they're doing this verse, and they're going to rhyme a couple of things a couple of times, but then magically they come around, they rhyme a third time for the hook to go into the hook, and you're like, oh man, that was pretty clever. How'd you do that? And it's all a good time and good fun, and yes, a lot of the musical themes are pulled directly from almost it somewhat lovingly, somewhat, straight up theft of a style, which is cool because that's how music works. But yeah, you can totally be like, oh, somebody was listening to some Prince for a while here, or like somebody stole that from Hall & Oates.
Yeah.
Jangle, 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 huh. Like everybody can do that.
To get up on and stomp on somebody's couch for a little bit, Yeah.
Rubbing the mud in.
Yeah.
I understood that reference.
Drew.
Oh, well done.
How would you describe this album musically?
Well, the weird thing about this album is I looked up the track listing and I saw the first 3 features. And I was like, well, that's a bold choice for Chromeo. Dram, French Montana, and Stefflon Don. I was like, okay, let's see how that works. But it was fucking cool. I think Dave 1 and P Thug are compositionally some of the most solid musicians in like pop music today. And I say like popular music today, not like pop music today, obviously.
Pop ass album
music.
Yeah.
Shooby dooby doo wop bop bop.
It's surprisingly
right.
modern.
I don't want to
with its throwback sound.
These songs have beats and you can dance to them.
Yes. Very much so. But it's not separating it from like pop, like the Elton John pop or whatever. But like, there's a very like loving take on a lot of different styles of music here. It's Chromeo, so you get that like thick, funky, like 80s vibe to things. These guys listen to a lot of that 80s like R&B, like punk, blue-eyed soul sort of thing multiple times. There is just really, really amazing composition throughout the entire thing, in my opinion. The bass tone at times is something I always love out of Chromeo records. It's something that I think is really, really great. And like Brett said, they've got some money and they're going to goddamn use it. And you can tell it. You look at the writers and producers on this record, and it is such that I feel like at times that they were just like, screw it. Let's just get somebody else we want to work with into the studio. Can we pay them? Yeah, we got the money. Screw it. Like, let's just whatever. And pull them in. The thing I worry about when that happens is a too many cooks in the kitchen sort of feel to an album. But I don't think I felt that here personally. They were already, I think, like I said, they won P Thug. I think they were already so focused on their production side of things. With their earlier albums, they already have sort of the sound and tonality and how they want their albums produced. So having more people there is just more ears to be like, hey, this would be cool. And then adding that in and like saying, all right, we'll put him on a production credit because he gave us an idea we used. It's just something that everything just flows really well for me. Like Brett said, the lyrics aren't going to be anything like over the top or fantastic. There are sometimes, specifically one track that I'll get to, that I felt like, oh, this could be taken a number of different ways, and I'm not used to that in a Chromeo record. I'm used to very cookie cutter, like love songs or songs about vaguely doing it. Like this is
vaguely
weird.
Doing it.
Vaguely doing it. I don't think that's how I wanted to phrase that, but I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Not that you're vaguely doing it. Not that it's like a dry hump situation. This is a weird conversation to get in.
Although it could be.
It could be a dry hump situation.
Do the math at home, kids.
Yes.
Legs. So, but
I'm so lost.
But it's something that I think I had. It's something that you don't put on to think about the lyrics or think about the musicality or the technicality. You put it on for catchy hooks and a cool dance groove and some synthiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, musically it's just super fun. David, DJM, how would you describe this album musically?
I would describe this album as bro funk. That's the name that I'm giving it, bro funk. My first inclination after my first listen through of this album was to compare them to a band that I've enjoyed for many, many years, although I would say that they're more of a synthesized, less organic version, and that is Jamiroquai. What Jamiroquai does with acid jazz and funk and instruments and playing live and touring like an old-fashioned rock and roll band, these guys do with samples and beats and producers, except they compress things down a little bit into nice, digestible pop music packages, which works here. I will say that some of the lyrics on some of the songs kind of were a little weird at times, where it was like, different people might construe this and may not care for these lyrics too much. And we'll get to that later, for good and for ill. But overall, my thoughts on this album right now were that it reminded me a little bit of Jamiroquai, but more synthetic.
Yeah, I think that's definitely understandable. There's an interesting thing about Chromeo's sound. They've been doing this sound in one form or another for 14 years at this point.
Yeah,
which is interesting. 16 years according to the Wikipedia as far as how been active.
Also, I will say there were moments on this album where Dave One really reminded me of J.K. from Jamiroquai.
Which is definitely
I can see that. I can see
that. They've been doing but like they sound very modern because the rest of mainstream music caught up to them. Basically, Bruno Mars. Well, Bad
Rabbits. Everybody wants to get a little 80s.
Yeah, Bad Rabbits did it, and then of course just wanted to throw that out there. And then Bruno Mars did it, and Mark Ronson with Bruno Mars did that song. And now the funky, funk, R&B 80s throwback sound is a thing, and it's modern, and by extension makes Chromeo suddenly modern, which is really cool and interesting.
That guy puts a hose in his mouth.
Is Jamiroquai gonna become modern?
Jamiroquai is old. That guy's like, isn't Virtual Insanity was a thing from like 1997, correct?
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
But yeah, it's definitely kind of interesting kind of approach it from that perspective. But yeah, Chromeo is just fantastic and fun, and it definitely, you can see those sounds, but the funk is still there, even and they've still got it. But yeah,
the funk hit the fan, and people definitely wanted to jam.
Yes, get real funky, real stanky.
I'm gonna wear a Cat in the Hat, and I'm gonna ride on this tram.
Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about some of the key tracks. Let's zero in on some of the key tracks. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, Petey, when we die, we all gonna stink. So funk forever, motherfuckers. But yeah, count me out. It's got the synth, and it's got some wah 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 wah, and it's got some bass slide around, popping and doing all those things.
I think if Charlie Murphy were still with us, he'd have stories to tell about this song.
Yeah. There's some reverbed out like claves or woodblock that sounds pretty cool in there. I don't know. I think that the lyrics are, the last thing I come to from a Chromeo stand or for music in general. But I thought there was some pretty good turns of phrase. Slumming it, that's a pretty a nice treat near the end of the album. It's got that great electric piano tone and some really effective bass and a saxophone solo, which makes like the last 10 albums we've done have had saxophone solos in them. It's kind of, and we've listened to some fucked up varieties of, a lot of saxophone. It's not a bad thing. One track
Nothing wrong
mind.
with a bit of premarital sex.
Well, I mean, that's how they do it in Montreal, I guess. One track mind. It's a relatively simple song with a beat and a hook. I'm sort of a sucker for a digitally echoed rim shot. Like, can't go wrong with that. I mean, there are a lot of songs on here that, like, I could go through each and every song and talk about, like, they sort of have a pattern. Like, there's always a slow jam that tends to go at the same beat on all of the albums. So I didn't really want to focus on, but those are the three songs that really sounded different to me, and not just in the production style. I enjoy the more the disco feel, because funk is now everything in every pop album. Somebody's laying it down. So like I sort of was drawn to the that does not sound like what we got on White Women, which was this album's kind of more White Women, but yeah.
It's more of that. Drew, how would you what were some of the key tracks for you?
Where the White Women at? I'm gonna lump in the two first tracks because I lumped them in during my description block, but Must Have Been in Don't Sleep, I think, really kind of open up really, really well. Dram on the hook in Must Have Been just sounded brilliant to me. One Track Mind is the one that I sort of alluded to. It's something that, like, the lyrics and the music kind of go together in this weird way, which is unusual for Chromeo, in my opinion, where at once it could be like this sort of guy trying to be endearing, and the other way could be like really creepy and kind of weird and kind of off-putting. To think of a dude like that. Bedroom Calling Part 2. I wanted to bring up this new edition sounding motherfucker is fantastic. And I like it a lot. And I want more of that because that's okay in my book. And then I wanted to bring up Just Friends last because, like, I did not know who Amber Mark was before this, and oh my god, do I want to hear more of this girl's voice, because it hit me like a ton of bricks. Her voice is interesting as hell, and it's really cool, and it's something that, like, took me by surprise. I'm like, oh, well, shit, like, this is cool, like, I should look up more of this.
Yeah. She stands out on that track so well, like, and that one especially is like has a certain, like, very, very familiar sound, a very familiar style on that track. But yeah, she stands out a lot. I too am going to check out more of Amber Mark's stuff. But yeah, David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
I really enjoyed Don't Sleep, the second track on the album. Like Drew said, One Track Mind. That one made me a little bit uncomfortable.
I think it's supposed to a little bit, but like that, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
If I were a betting man, I would assume they were not trying to be creepy, because they go out of their way to not be creepy.
Yeah.
Like, see, that's why I think, like,
pop music doesn't
after
age well.
After listening to Bad Decision, I think they should try a little harder.
Yeah.
But Don't Sleep was the one that I've really enjoyed, as well as Slumming It, track 9. Those were the big two that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, I think those are some of the key tracks, and like I said, "Count Me Out" is so much fun. I think it's like I alluded to earlier. That's a pretty Rick James ass song. In many ways, like it's a pretty Rick James-ish song. With "Count Me Out,"
it's got the synth hits like. That are like that are very orchestral, but orchestral in a synthesizer way.
Yeah,
like,
and it's just so much fun. Music is just.
Let me slide this bass string. Like,
but yeah, let's bring it back around the horn and talk about some conclusive thoughts. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
Well, considering like I've got like super like stupid outrunny everything, like 80s styled things are sort of what I'm into right now. And Chromeo very much takes that approach. If you haven't seen them doing Daryl's House, I think we said this. I think we said this before. Go watch that because it's fucking cool.
Yes. Chromeo going to Daryl's house to play Hall & Oates songs.
Yeah, which works about as well as you'd think it would.
Yeah.
Which is
and they play one Chromeo song
terribly.
No, it works. It works out great. It's like when you put a TalkBox keyboard in,
it's. And also it's almost like Hall & Oates was a huge inspiration.
Also, the one Chromeo song they play is basically their Hall & Oates song.
Yep.
So it's great. It's great. They're fucking sweet.
Committing. I respect that.
It's you live the gimmick sometimes. As some would say, you live the gimmick. But at the end of the day, this is just an album that you sort of put on after a bad day. You dance around a little bit too. You don't think about it too much. It's like I said, compositionally, I think that these two are really smart, and I think they do things their way and what they want to make, and they want to make fun music, and I think they achieve that goal. I think I had a fun time. I don't think I had a fun time. I know I had a fun time with this.
Yes. David, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
Here's what I want everyone to do. If it is summer where you are, I want you to take this album, plug in your aux cable into your phone or Bluetooth, however you're able to do that with your mode of transportation. Roll down the windows, get on the road, drive around town and play this album. And I guarantee by the time it's done and by the time you're back home, you will be in a great, great mood. Because everyone talks about looking for a song of the summer. This entire album, for the most part, is a album of summer songs. Fun is the word that can best be described. Fun, enjoyable from start to finish. And just really good to just drive around with the windows down and just enjoy yourself. If you're one of those really self-conscious people that you worry about people looking at you when you're dancing around in your car, don't do that. But otherwise, yeah, this is hella, as they say, hella fun. Drive around to.
Yes. Overall, it is just fantastic. Chromeo have this like innate quality that they have this sound that they've been cultivating for the past decade.
Unless you're really sensitive about certain types of lyrics directed towards ladies.
Yes. That caveat aside, they've been cultivating this sound for the past decade and a half, and they do it well, and it is fantastic. It is they put out the hot bangers, as they would say. These are some hot summer jams as one would put it. Definitely. But yeah,
All right.
Brett. Yes. Yeah. Let's talk. Brett, how would you conclude on this album? What would be your conclusion on this album?
Well, I believe this is another solid release by the quote only successful Arab-Jewish partnership since the dawn of human culture.
Man, I was waiting for that. Waiting for that.
Yes. Yep, there's some dudes from Montreal singing in English. It's a thing. I enjoy some of this. I brought it because I was not a knowledgeable Chromeo listener until Drew made me listen to Duck Sauce and then made me listen to Chromeo. Like,
was I the one that brought Duck Sauce?
Was it?
I don't think I was the one that brought Duck
Patrick.
Sauce.
No, it might have been Pete. It might have been any one of you. I just know it wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't me.
I'm good.
It was Patrick.
I'm gonna say it might have been Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then I think I brought Chromeo specifically because he brought Duck Sauce.
Yeah,
and that's how that worked out.
So most of my, I was around for the '80s. I've heard all of the pieces of these albums just before they were, thrown into a blender and smushed together by a couple of, people close to my age. But it's always nice to have more of a thing that I enjoyed. It's not exactly melt your face off kind of an album, but it was good and it was made well. I probably am going to have to give this a little more time to stew on my brain before I figure out whether or not it's like a really good album. But I think it's solid. I mean, when it comes to the kind of schlock you hear on adult contemporary radio, this is the most tolerable that I can think of. But because it is constructed of pieces that other people did and did arguably better, it's probably not going to reach greatness status ever. But it's fun, and it doesn't have to be great to be a good time.
Yeah.
Don't have to take your clothes off to have a good time. Oh no.
Yes. Yes.
But it's Chromeo.
Chromeo.
They do things with synthesizers, and sometimes in their mouth while they're going with them. Yeah.
Whoa.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
Yes. Chromeo is fantastic. Go check it out. Go listen to the album. Now we get to the main event of the evening. We get to our haiku reviews. We kind of like oversimplify everything in a fun bit. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. To haikumero numero uno. Drew, what is your haiku?
80s funk goodness. A beautiful summer treat. What else can I say?
What else can I say? David, what is your haiku?
I call this bro funk. Pretty fun, likely harmless. Lyrics need some work.
Yeah. All right, my haiku. Let's get down to this. They bring throwback groove and use their talent and style to funk forever. Yeah, and finally, Brett, what is your haiku?
Songs about fucking, but not really gratuitous. Funk forever, motherfucker.
Mobile.
Yes.
Mobile. Yes. Those are our thoughts on Chromeo's Head Over Heels.
Head over the heels.
Head over the heels. The Chromeo with the such and the funk and the forever
and the thing, nice lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a Prince song.
All right. You can, of course, listen to this album on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Do the thing. Listen along at home. Do your homework. Do your due diligence. On that Spotify playlist, of course, will be next week's record. Playing with BTS right here. This little thing. On that Spotify playlist will be next week's record, and that will be provided by Drew. Drew, what do you have for us next week?
So I decided that since the last time I brought something on, it was a little bit of a underhanded pitch. I'd bring something in that was maybe a little bit more meaty.
Yin Yang's on shirt.
Jeez,
Drew.
Yin Yang's on shirt. Yin Yang's on shirts.
Drew.
A lot of that fusion jazzy goodness. It's a super group that formed out of Vital Information's drummer Steve Smith, Tribal Tech's guitarist Scott Henderson, and my favorite bass player, Victor Wooten from Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. It would be Vital Techtones, the 1998 self-titled album by a band, the Vital Techtones.
Yes. Look forward to that fun discussion next week. But that is next week, and this is this week. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. David is at Please Call Me DJM. Brett is at HeyBBBird, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at XJuiceForX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. If you want to email us, Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube, on other places. Find us everywhere you can find podcasts. Like, share, subscribe, do the things, and click the buttons and the touching and the clicking and the whatnot. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.
Fuck forever, motherfuckers.